American Horror Story isn't shy about including lots of real-life horrors, but it doesn't always get that history completely accurate, especially when it comes to actual historical figures that pop up in the show's various storylines. Here are things American Horror Story gets wrong about history. 2019's American Horror Story 1984 was a retro throwback to slasher films of the 1980s. Inspired by Friday the 13th, Sleepaway Camp, Halloween, and more, the story focused on the fictional Camp Redwood, the site of numerous killings and ghastly goings-on. But to add a little zest to the story, creators added real-life serial killer Richard the Night Stalker Ramirez into the mix, where he attacked the camp's counselors and openly worshipped Satan. Ramirez really did break into homes and kill the occupants, and he really did have a strange obsession with Satan. Even Ramirez's origin story, portrayed in a flashback, is pretty accurate. Ramirez's capture, where he was chased by an angry mob through the streets of Los Angeles after being identified at a convenience store, really happened too. As amazing as that sounds. Other than the obviously fictional parts about Ramirez killing teens at a summer camp, the show gets his life story surprisingly close to the real thing. There is one thing that definitely didn't happen with Ramirez, though. He never escaped from prison, as he does in the season's final episodes. Using the power of Satan, Ramirez is able to trick a guard into releasing him, and he begins a journey of revenge from there. The real Richard Ramirez spent the rest of his life in jail, though. He stayed on death row until 2013, when he died of lymphoma. American Horror Story Coven, the show's third season, was a fan favorite. The storyline involves a group of young witches studying at Miss Robichaux's Academy in New Orleans, where they learn the magic secretly passed down through generations by survivors of the Salem Witch Trials. Alongside this are numerous plot threads featuring real-life New Orleans history and actual denizens of the city's past. One of these is Madame Delphine LaLaurie, played by Kathy Bates. A socialite and slave owner, Madame LaLaurie had a dark secret. In her spare time, she tortured and mutilated her slaves for various medical experiments in her mansion's attic slave quarters.
Bonsoir, my pets. Did you all miss me?
That actually happened. LaLaurie was a monster and was found out by her neighbors when one of her cooks intentionally set fire to the house to expose her crimes, according to Deep South magazine. In the show, LaLaurie was tricked into taking an immortality potion and buried in a box until the modern day. But the real LaLaurie had a far less dramatic fate. She fled New Orleans before she could be brought to justice. Although where she ended up afterward isn't entirely clear, it's believed that she made her way to Paris and eventually died there. American Horror Story's 8th season, Apocalypse, aired in 2018 and finally revisited lingering plots from Murder House and Coven, something fans had eagerly awaited. Michael Langdon, a child hinted to be the Antichrist and born to the Harmon family in Season 1, returned. This time, he was confirmed to be the actual son of Satan and was opposed by the witches of Season 3. Michael's abbreviated upbringing, during which he aged at a very accelerated rate, features a storyline where he is effectively a child in an adult's body and has to be taught what exactly it means to be the Antichrist and what his duties are in bringing about the end of the world. In the episode Return to Murder House, Anton LaVey and members of the Church of Satan show up at the titular house and perform a human sacrifice as part of a black mass. Anton LaVey was a real person and founder of the Church of Satan, but in real life, the Church of Satan is a secular group that's focused on earthly matters, not actual devil worshippers. LaVey chose the name for metaphorical purposes, and the church is considered an atheist organization. And they don't do sacrifices either. The Church of Satan was upset enough about the show's portrayal to put out a public statement decrying the episode. Along with the witches of Season 3's titular Coven, American Horror Story also features several voodoo practitioners of New Orleans, a city known for its connection to the religion. The leader is the voodoo queen, Marie Laveau. She's a cunning immortal who is ruthless in defending herself and her compatriots from witchcraft, a competing magic to voodoo. She'll do anything it takes, and she quickly arises as an antagonist to the witches of Miss Robichaux's Academy.
If we don't fight back, we may as well lay down in our beds and wait for death because that's what's at stake.
Marie Laveau was a real person, and she's a legend in the history of New Orleans and voodoo. Practicing her own particular form of magic, Laveau really was known as the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. She wasn't evil, though. According to an obituary that ran in the New York Times, Laveau was, quote, one of the most wonderful women who ever lived. Obviously, she also wasn't actually immortal, but this rumor predates American Horror Story. It may have come about because her daughter, who was also named Marie Laveau, was also a famous voodoo practitioner who reportedly looked just like her mother. Similar to Freak Show, American Horror Story Cult eschewed supernatural horror for the real-life horrors of cults, brainwashing, and human manipulation. As the story unfolds, there are flashbacks to cult leaders of the recent past. In 1968, a woman named Valerie Solanas attempts to murder artist Andy Warhol and starts a group called SCUM, an acronym for the Society for Cutting Up Men. Solanas and SCUM then begin to commit domestic terror acts to advance their own extremist brand of feminism, culminating in a plot to commit multiple killings and blame them on the Zodiac Killer, a fictionalized persona they created.
These are the Zodiac killings.
Scum killings, actually, but yes.
You're telling me you were the Zodiac Killer?
That's correct.
In reality, Solanas did shoot Andy Warhol, and she did write the SCUM manifesto, but she never started an actual group. SCUM didn't even stand for anything, despite what people started claiming. While Solanas was mentally unstable, the SCUM manifesto is typically considered to be hyperbolic and not an actual plan to wipe out men. And there's zero evidence that the Zodiac killings were committed by multiple perpetrators or as part of an organized conspiracy. American Horror Story Coven features a long-standing feud between witches and practitioners of voodoo. As Marie Laveau explains to Fiona Good, voodoo and witchcraft both trace their histories to the Salem Witch Trials. The first person accused of witchcraft, Tituba, was a slave who practiced a shamanistic magic, an early form of voodoo.
You made her a slave. Before that, she came from a great tribe, the Arawak.
Laveau claims that the white Europeans of Salem learned some of Tituba's magic, then betrayed her, stealing the magic for themselves.
She learned the secrets of the other side from a 2,000-year-old line of shamans, necromancy. She gave it to your girls of Salem.
Historically, the first woman accused of witchcraft in Salem was indeed a slave named Tituba, but that's about all that's correct of Laveau's story. Traditional voodoo is far more closely related to the religious beliefs of West Africa than with the Arawak, the indigenous people of the Caribbean. And it's not even clear that Tituba was of Arawak descent. She was black, but her specific ancestry wasn't recorded, so we don't know her actual heritage at all. What's more, Tituba's accused crimes, which she forcibly confessed to, were all based around European ideas of witchcraft, like riding brooms and having an animal familiar. Of course, it's very likely she didn't practice any sort of magic at all and committed no real crime, like most of the women accused in Salem. One of the lesser-seen antagonists of American Horror Story Coven is Papa Legba, a voodoo Loa with a top hat, painted face, dark clothes, and a tendency to make unsavory deals with mortals. He makes a particularly nasty one with Marie Laveau, requesting that she sacrifice a baby to him once a year to keep her immortality. He's also portrayed as being a warden of hell. Papa Legba exists in voodoo, but the show's depiction is highly inaccurate. His appearance and behavior are derived from a different Loa, Baron Samedi. Papa Legba is meant to be a go-between from mortals to the Loa. Most voodoo rituals involve calling on Papa Legba, a wizened old man with a cane, to carry the practitioner's requests to the Loa, according to Lady Geek Girl. It's also worth noting that hell is not part of voodoo's mythology. Instead, there is a spirit world, which is a counterpart to the human world, but not a place of punishment or fire and brimstone. In voodoo belief, the dead move on to the spirit realm and live there, where they can still be called on by the living. American Horror Story Roanoke was one of the biggest departures for the series. Instead of a traditional narrative, Roanoke presents its story of a haunted house in the form of two documentaries. The first, My Roanoke Nightmare, is in the style of a true haunting TV show, with interviews with the homeowners intercut with dramatic reenactments. And the second, Return to Roanoke, 3 Days in Hell, portrays the owners and the actors who played them in a reality show, where both groups are to spend 3 nights together in the house. As the plot unfolds, the source of the horrors of the historical Roanoke colony and the modern haunted house are determined to be caused by a centuries-old witch called Scáthach, an English woman of Druidic descent who stowed away on the Roanoke colony ship and was burned at the stake after the colony experienced misfortune. Scáthach was freed by ancient gods and slaughtered the people of Roanoke, leading to the events of Roanoke and becoming the first supreme witch, tying into Coven's storyline. Turns out, Scáthach is a real mythological entity, but not in American folklore. Instead, she comes from Celtic legends, where she wasn't a witch at all. Scáthach was a warrior woman who trained various figures from Celtic mythology in the ways of combat, and was a noble, venerated fighter. Check out one of our newest videos right here, plus even more grunge videos about your favorite shows are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.